Loose Gadgies, hello. Today, I start every episode with saying, today, look, I've been watching a lot of news, and this Chief Constable came out and said...
What was he? A chief what?
Chief Constable.
Oh, right. Sorry, I just misheard.
Yeah, we're not talking about anything shaven.
I just thought you'd abbreviated it.
No, not with your mum listening.
No,
she posted
true.
She posted on YouTube, mind, saying thanks for calling us posh. Aye. And she put another bunch of comments on there on YouTube as well.
I'd recommend that documentary. Yeah.
Yeah.
Posh and Bex.
She was talking about not watching the news and how she relies on other people to. If I need to know something, I'll need to know it. And I was like, I agree. You do. Yeah. You find these things out, and if it affects you, you'll learn it. Or you can then approach the news in your own way and go and find it, and then take the perspectives in and come to your own. Like you said, taking multiple articles and then find the middle ground somewhere. So I appreciated that. So I responded to that on YouTube. But today, I wanted to talk about how, based on what this Chief Constable said, and he said, we're in a culture now where, because of the likes of liberal parents over the last decade-ish or so, a couple of decades, kids are in the situation where they're not used to being told no, which then affects us in the workplace, or you can see it on the kids with their feet on the seats. And the thing is, you don't know whether you're safe to approach them and say, "Hey, get your feet down," or are you going to get stabbed? Never had boundaries set. And a psychologist was on there saying, look, one thing that these liberal parents don't realise is you're actually doing your kids harm in two ways. The first is that if they have no boundaries, they're not being told how the world works. They have no framework for the world, so they feel lost. And that loss leads to fear, because they don't know direction. And when they start going out into the world, they don't know what's right, what's wrong, and they don't know why things are working the way they're working. Because you've just said, it's just kids being kids. They're climbing on the seats. You've just got to let them, you've got to let them be free, haven't you? No, if I'd done that, there'd have been a hand come out of nowhere straight across the back of my head. So, but I'm not necessarily a proponent of some of my mum's favourite sayings like children should be seen and not heard, but there has to be a middle ground somewhere. And the other part was when they get into places like the workplace and they start hearing no from their boss. No, you can't have that holiday. No, you can't do that way. Yes, you have to go to this course. Yes, you have to do this. You've got to turn up on time. Why are you late? Oh, well, I was out last night. What? Oh, well, it's not how the wider world works. As much as you want to be liberal and free and, I don't believe in this, and you shouldn't do this with your kids. You shouldn't tell them that. It might damage them. Not telling them things is causing them damage, and you're not setting them up to be an adult in a world that doesn't work like that, and it never will work like that. As much as you want it to, if the next generation of people were all people that hadn't had any boundaries set for them, can you imagine what kind of planet that would be? So I just thought, you know what, I need to bring this up. And given all the training that you do and all the people that you bump into, and I imagine some of the courses you do are perhaps even as a result of behaviours and things in the workplace, you must see some of the results of this and how this works and impacts the workplace. And perhaps you've even had to do certain levels of training or questions you've even had to answer when people wonder why maybe they're unpopular, or maybe why does this work like this, and you're having to coach them through it. So I wouldn't mind hearing what you think, and whether me agreeing with what that guy said, that some liberal parenting has led to some of the chaos we're in and some of the horrific acts that are going about there because they haven't had boundaries. So I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's interesting that a couple of clients I've been sort of working with over the last sort of year or two have asked for so especially as we seem to be moving away from everybody going into university, and a lot of companies doing what I would call them modern apprenticeships,
Yeah.
where they're actually starting work and they're doing sort of weekday release into university to get their degree, which means they're basically going straight from school straight into a job, and some companies are finding that transition very difficult because what they're saying is these kids don't understand personal boundaries. They don't understand no. So we're now creating courses whereby we're doing introductory courses as they basically start to help them understand what they should and shouldn't do in a workplace. Which just like, can you imagine us when we were 17, 18 going on a course to find out what we should and shouldn't say? Well, we shouldn't say anything because you just keep your mouth shut until you actually work out what's going on.
Yeah, you establish your boundaries over time, like, oh, I can't make those sort of jokes. I can't say that sort of thing. These are the expectations on me. So you would start with full boundaries and then know which ones you can get rid of and which ones you can cross and when you can cross them. So, yeah, I wouldn't have. I mean, I hadn't been diagnosed at the time, but even as the way my mind works back then, I knew, thanks to my parents and the strict boundaries they kind of built into us about how to behave. I started from let's wait and see.
Yeah.
I started work a month after I left school, straight into a job that my dad sorted out for us, which I ultimately left. But I didn't step out of line while I was there. Certainly not in the first few weeks. I was like, what's going on? What do I do? And you respect authority. You know that when your boss says, right, I need to swap your shift around, you're going to be doing this. And if you didn't have a good reason, you couldn't say no.
One of the things that really sticks in my mind at school was, and obviously I had this teacher for 2 years, and you know when you pick your options, I chose history, and I love history as a subject, but I was the class clown, and we got this new teacher, and I don't mind saying his name, Mr. Hurst, and I was the clown straight away, and basically he stood me up in the class and said, you don't watch yourself, I'm going to come there and I'm going to take your trousers down and smack your arse. Now, you wouldn't be able to say that now, but I tell you what, he brought me in line, and it was basically I got the highest grade that I could get on my subjects because he created some boundaries straight away, and I respected it, and I just put myself out. But if he'd let me be the class clown for 2 years, I wouldn't have got that qualification. Wouldn't have got
it. Me and Sarah have had this conversation because we went to the same school.
Yeah.
And we had the science teacher there, Mr. Bridgewater. As much as we used to sort of make fun of him, he was our favourite teacher, and for the same reason. Because when you went in there, you knew where you stood, you knew what you could and couldn't do, you knew you knew exactly what the expectations were, and if you performed, you stood out for the right reason, and he made sure that you knew that he'd noticed that you were a performer. And I felt that. It was one of the only 2 GCSEs I got was modular science, computer studies. Now, computer studies was a different kettle of fish. He was far too liberal, Mr. Clausen. But I got that because it was computer stuff, right? So there was no way I was fit. Mind you, I still only got a C, which is funny when you look at what I do these days. But and we look back on these teachers. Like I've never been a fan of history, but one of my favourite teachers, Mr. Brown in middle school, was a history teacher, and it was the way he taught. He was one of those enthusiastic types. He was a nice guy. You don't cross him though. But he was a nice guy, he was a lovely bloke, and the way he taught, the way he engaged you with the material, and got the whole class working as a class. I've not forgotten him. Mr. Machin from first school, the last year of first school, and the way that he taught, engaged. There are some things these days I still do because of him. I try to not use the word got, because he sent us an exercise, like, can you construct sentences without using the word got? Because got is lazy. And gotten, don't get me started on that Americanism. Oh, it hasn't gotten better since then? You mean it hasn't improved? So I regularly try not to use the word God when I'm writing, when I'm typing or writing emails and whatnot, and that's stuck with me since, because he earned my respect. Even as a kid, he earned my respect. And so there's these teachers across time that I knew where I sat, I knew my boundaries, I knew what I could and couldn't do, and he made it very clear from the start, and he was consistent. That was probably the most important thing, was consistency.
Well, one of the other things that teacher did, which I've just thought of there, was he was the first teacher basically to treat us all the same. So if you'd went into a class back in, I'm talking obviously 1980s, who would we sit with? We'd sit with our mates, wouldn't we, in the class, because that's who we wanted to be with. And he basically told us to stand up. He put the boys in alphabetical order, he put the girls in alphabetical order, and then he made us sit boy-girl in alphabetical order. And you had to sit next to the person that was basically a girl who was of the same surname, starting surname. And it was just a way of you basically had to get on with that person next to you who you didn't know, but it was forced inclusivity, or whatever the word is.
Yeah, but it also, you got to know someone you wouldn't have necessarily got to know, but it also then broke up the troublemakers, right?
Yeah.
Because troublemakers cause trouble when they've got someone backing them up. Whereas if you're not sat next to that person that was going to back you up, all of a sudden, everyone is on their own.
Yeah.
Which then creates a room full of people who are together. It's a stroke of genius.
Yeah, back then it was, and I never thought of it that way, that it was a stroke of genius, because all the other teachers basically let us sit where we want. So, of course, what did we do? Troublemakers, we all sat at the back in a group and threw things and, blah, blah, blah. And he just, annihilated that from day one. This would come in my class, right? This is what's happening. Boom. And you were like, ooh, this is new.
There are some teachers that wouldn't do that because fear of being hated by the students. Now, he obviously had no fear of being liked or disliked, didn't care. No. But in the end, you respect him more than the other teachers, right? The ones that let you lark about. So
yeah, and he was. I remember when you had to choose whether you were doing CSE and GCE, so whether you were doing CSE and O levels, and you normally only did.
That had gone by the time I was it.
Yeah, and you normally only did one, and I decided I was going to double up and double my chances by taking both exams, and you had to pay. And I remember going to his desk and I said, I'm thinking about doubling up, and he was like, honestly, Mark, he said, I don't think you're good enough for the higher level. I don't think, and teachers just didn't say that to you. They just and he was like, I don't think you're good enough, and I was like, I'd like to do it anyway. Anyway, I pulled my plonker out, and I'd revised, and I got at the top. I basically got the top grade I could on the second exam as well, because he said you're not good enough, and I was like, right.
And that's probably why he said it, right?
Yeah.
He knew you could be, but at the moment you're not, and you went, I know what will motivate him, because I bet you hated hearing that, right?
Oh yeah. It's like anything like
not
that.
Good, right.
Yeah,
right,
I'll prove you wrong. Yeah. And it's like anything. It's like Anita says to us now. She says to me, if I say you can't do something, you're basically going to try and kill yourself to do it, aren't you? And I was like, yeah, I am.
Yeah.
I'm going to prove you wrong.
I'm the same in many respects. That's not even possible, is it?
You get into all sorts of subjects about possible and impossible, and I just believe we can do anything we want if we put our mind to it, and we spend enough time studying it or doing it. We can do anything.
Well, you don't know, and if you haven't tried to do it, I don't believe in not starting just because someone says, nah, you're not able to do that. It generally has the opposite effect on me. You'll never be able to learn that.
Right. Do what? I could learn to speak Spanish, but I'm not passionate about it at the moment. So is it worth studying it? No. But if I was passionate about it, I probably do really well.
This is exactly what Nancy said to me while I was in Germany. And I'd learned a handful of phrases and this and that. And you know how those courses that the company paid for, how all that went, we all gradually dropped out, right? And she said, you know what? Berlitz. Right.
That's it.
And when I applied myself, I did all right.
You did?
But she gave me one sort of a heartfelt truth, like a. She said, "Look, you're intelligent enough. I'm convinced to be able to speak German. So if you wanted to learn it, you'd learn it absolutely, and you'd be fluent in it. However, you know you're leaving at some point, so you're not going to bother. So your brain thinks that's not useful information. So I'm not going to bother. I'm going to learn enough, which I did, to go to Kaufland and whatnot and buy me shopping. And although it was nice, when you got to the end of the queue and there was always somebody stand at the till wanting to do a review with you. Can I ask you a couple of questions? So, do you speak English? Sorry, I don't have enough German. And they went, no. And I went, yes. I'm not doing your bloody review, your survey. Shut up. Yeah. So, that came in handy, but I learned a handful of phrases. I learned to perhaps comprehend more than I could speak. But she laid it out and went, if you wanted to, you absolutely could. You're capable of it. Aside from all the questions you have about German grammar and things that don't make sense, but I'm sure it's the same in any language. I said, you would. I'm sure you would. I went, yeah. I've never forgotten that. You're right. It's the same when I had a Spanish girlfriend. I learned enough. But mind you, on the other side of that, how much time did we spend helping everyone else with their English? Because as soon as they find out you're an English person speaking English, they all wanted to practice on you, didn't they? And is this right? Is that right? How do you say this? So I probably taught more English than I learned German. I think I certainly taught more than I learned.
All these dodgy Germans in Hamburg walking around speaking dodgy Geordie.
Yeah. Oh, we did teach them a bunch of phrases while we were there, for sure. Yeah. You have to though. You have to, especially with Brian. Brian in the dispatch, they'll have learned a whole bunch of Geordie stuff from him. Mind you, they taught us a few things like Vasgate, like what up, what's up. Vasgate.
What was digger? Digger. Oh,
digger.
That was it.
Yeah, it's a bit like saying dude, isn't it? Over there, and more of a slang way of saying dude.
Yeah.
So I always do that whenever I meet someone German. I'll try and surprise them by saying Vasgate. Like what? Rather than wie geht's. Or wie geht es dir?
Wie geht es dir?
And geil. Cool.
Genau.
Yeah. Or ending every sentence with ne.
Yeah.
Ne? Aye. So that kind of stuff. So I still, it's in there. I've still remembered some of it. Same with the Spanish. I still, sometimes watch a movie that has, a translated bit, some action movie where he's speaking to some Spanish guy or some criminal or something, and it'll come up with the subtitles at the bottom, and I'll go, that's not exactly what he said. That's enlightening mind. How often the subtitles are not exact. Even in English movies, because sometimes I'll have the subtitles on because I hate missing words. When someone has mumbled their words on a movie, I'm always winding back because I need to capture every single sentence, every single word that's said. It's a weird obsession. So I just put the subtitles on, right? Then I know exactly what was said, and I went, hold on a minute. The subtitles are different to the script. Why don't they just put the script in the bloody subtitles? Like someone has separately typed out something different in the subtitles of the script. What's that about? Oh, I started watching Equalizer 3. Didn't finish it. Yeah. Didn't finish it because it was late at night.
Yeah.
But it started out. He's in this Italian village and you can see it building, and it's just that moment where he's just trying to recover, and it's happened in all the movies. He's went, "Who are you?" They went, "Oh, they're gonna get it. They're gonna get it. They're the protagonists. There you go. They're gonna get it." And, ooh, but the way he does it, it's so subtle.
Yeah,
it's sort of my favourite kind of revengey, kind of mysterious secret agent kind of person movie. And then you get the cocky CIA agent saying, "You're a person of interest. I'm going to sort you out." And he just keeps rattling stuff off like...
He goes, "I'm an interesting person."
Yeah, and she's, aren't you going to ask how I found you? And he went, well, first of all, you'll have done this, and I'm like, I love it. And I love that it's Denzel doing it, because he delivers it so well. He's brilliant at that kind of... This is one of the best movie franchises he's done, I think.
He does this thing with his mouth. It's like, constantly. And he's very convincing in the way you can see the way he contemplates a thing or delivers a thing, and the expression on his face, and he does it in sort of a cheeky, knowing way, and I'm like, yeah, he's absolutely right for this role. Absolutely right. It's nothing like the TV series, but I'm kind of glad it's not, and I love what he's made it into in the way he delivers it. I know we're digressing here, but have you seen Man on Fire? So you have to watch Man on Fire. That's him and the little girl, and this is them brought up to modern day. The girl, Dakota Johnson, is the girl from Man on Fire, and also from the Alien, the War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise. Oh, yeah. It's the little girl growing up.
Man on Fire.
Man on Fire is a brilliant film with Denzel. It's
definitely popped up on one of the streaming channels at some point. Did I watch it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll eventually watch all his things anyway. I do whenever they pop, generally.
Alcoholic bodyguard gets given a dodgy job of looking after a girl, and
that
the
sounds
girl
familiar.
helps him. Yeah.
That sounds. I'll check it. If I haven't, I'll watch it.
Yeah. But what part are you up to on Denzel? This one? Can you remember where you finished off before you switch it off?
The fishmongers has been burned down.
Yes.
And the woman says, you've been accepted. Like, he receives this lemon from one of the elder people, and the woman in the cafe has invited him out for some proper food, and she said, that symbol means you've been accepted. You're now one of us.
Yeah.
And you can see that he's struggling in his head about, am I a good or a bad person?
Well,
by solving these problems, am I doing bad to do good? But does that make me good or bad? And he's just asked the doctor, why did you help me?
Yeah.
And he says, well, when I asked you, are you a good or a bad person? What did you say? And he went, I said, I don't know. And he said, well, only a good person would have said that. And that's where I left it, I think.
If you think about the movie, you are sort of, you're at this part here, you've gone there, and now it's about to kick off and go into the latter part of the movie.
So that's the bit where you're right in the crossover, because I was up late and I went, look, I want to enjoy this properly, so I stopped watching it.
Yeah, don't have your tea. Don't have your tea.
Part of the latest John Wick as well, and I've stopped that part way through. Or the Continental's a new series. Set in the 70s, based in the world of John Wick. That seems pretty good so far. But anyway, veered right off course.
We did,
haven't we?
As usual.
So, in summary, we've been talking about percentages and all sorts of conversations that have gone on, things that have happened on Twitter, people that have been cancelled for X, Y, and Z, for small groups in the population and whatnot. And some people on the news have, just to wrap this up, have kind of wrapped it back to saying it's because at some point some of these people should have been told no. Like Just Stop Oil and all these other places, they think they can just go out and express their opinion and put it on other people because they don't know what boundaries are and they're not used to having them. Especially when you look into some of the people that are in the Just Stop Oil, apart from the old people, a lot of the young uns in there, if you go and look at who their parents are, they've all got massive Land Rovers, they've all got hundreds of thousands, they've got these massive houses, and they're just bored students. And they've got money behind them. They're not working class people. They're all these middle and upper class idiots. So, anyway, boundaries. All about boundaries. Next one will be interesting. Covering some more of your training stuff and what you've been delivering. We'll have that out on Thursday. So there'll be more stuff out on some more clips out on Instagram and whatnot. Drop some of your comments again, like last time. Do some likes and follows. It's the best way to help us, and it's free and it gets us noticed, gets us out there. And if you want us to keep making some more stuff, this is the best way to do it. But until the next one, take care.